Okay, in the second part of this lesson, we'll look at ways that past work can be referred to without specific citations and why you would do that. There are many reasons that past research could be used in this way. One is for general background knowledge, things that are generally true or accepted by the field. Now, these you'll notice because they're usually written in the present tense because they're considered to be always true, not from a certain point in time where they were discovered. They're not about the new research in that article, but they're things that are known and accepted by experienced researchers in the field. This is commonly found in things like importance in engineering. In science, even these things that are generally accepted as true, science prefers to use a citation if it's available. And then the second is definitions or notation. These are very common in mathematics. There may be a whole section devoted to definitions or notation, presented as a list, in which case they're very easy to find. This is considered to be part of the framework because it's what the rest of the paper is based on, unless there are new definitions, new notation proposed in the current work, in which case it would be considered part of the research details. And then the third is the theoretical model, things that are needed to understand the current work, the approaches, the theoretical model, the specific background information, but things that are, again, well known in the field. This also is considered to be part of the framework, but I separated definitions because they're sort of a separate category and easy to recognize. So how do you find these? Because they're not marked. Again, let my students show you how they found them in their own work. Okay, now we're going to look at the unmarked areas where it's referring to past research, but without citation, and try to figure out how you can find those areas.
Okay, so let's look at the article again. So we can see that there are citations here. So now we can see the second paragraph. They say traditionally. So they are talking about how they do it in the traditional way.
Okay.
So they didn't cite it because many people do this.
Okay.
So yes. So then here's a framework, and this is a research goal.
And
okay,
then, so that's related to the framework.
Yes, that's related to the framework. And here is based on the framework. So they didn't also have the citations here because the citations is in the framework here. So here's also the methods. And for here, the material characterizations. So here is all the people do this.
Right. You don't need to talk about the methods for doing scanning electron microscopy because everybody in the field does it. So you don't need to list the specific methods or cite anything.
Yes. You can just list how many instruments that you use. Yes. And also here that you can also just list it, and you don't need to mention that why you choose it. Yes.
Because everybody does it.
Yes. So here is the result and discussion that they explain the results here.
Right.
And they are only just describing. So there's no particular things that they need to mention.
Right, because that's their work, which we'll talk about next week, rather than past work, so it doesn't need any citations.
Yes. So in the result and discussion part, if they have to like compare with past research, they will have citations. If they don't have, then there's no.
Right.
Yes. So here's also no unmarkable citations here. And in the conclusion, there absolutely no unmarked citations here.
Right. Again, because that's talking about their own work, which we'll talk about next week, rather than past research.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. Now we'll look in the mechanical engineering article for those references to past work that are not specifically stated.
Okay, for this article, I found not many the unmarked citation. The first one I found in the research detail as this one. Okay, they try to formulate some particular problem by using the traditional controller. So this one they use the sliding control because Actually, this one have mentioned before, but normally, if the author try to use this kind of word and this method, that they should cite the some number here. Okay, and the second one is this one. They define the state space partitionings. This word just showed at the first time, but the key point is they use the instead of a. So this one is really obvious that they try to refer to some really popular method or some well-known method.
Okay, so if the audience doesn't know about something, the first time you mention it, you should use a, but this is the first time they mentioned state space partitioning. So the fact that they use the implies that the audience already ought to know about the idea of state space partitioning, and therefore it's from past work.
Yeah, so the beginner should not know about this one. Yeah, except me, because I'm very familiar to this field. So when I see this one, oh, okay, I can realize what is this one.
So again, this is things that an experienced researcher in the field would know, but someone who's new might not be able to tell that this is past work instead of the present work.
Okay. And the other one in the simulation results in the testing method, they try to compare with the traditional sliding mode control. This one is really clear because they use the traditional to represent that they use the past research.
Right. And again, sliding mode controller, then you can, that was what we talked about before. It didn't specifically say it there, but you can say, oh, sliding mode controller, that's traditional. People ought to know it. That must be referring to well-known past work. And now to look for the unmarked references to past work in our electrical engineering article.
Yeah, so in this article, they also mentioned about the dependency graph, but this is the well-known in this field, so they didn't mention any citation in this subsection.
Okay, so again, this is something that's well known to researchers in this field. I wouldn't know it. I wouldn't know that this is past work, but you know it because a lot of things in the field are based on dependency graphs.
Yeah.
So this is something that's field specific. And again, a new student coming into the field may not know that, but you have to learn that. Okay, now we're going to talk about when you need references and how you decide whether you need a specific citation or whether it's okay to just refer to past work. So what do you think? I mean, you've written a little bit, you've read several articles. How does an author decide whether they need a numbered citation or whether it's okay to just refer to the past?
Okay, let me talk first. For my case, we have two categories. The first one, most of this one is happen in the introduction part when you try to say some claim and then you have support, right? To support this claim is stronger or more solid. So when you say some sentence and you think that sentence is not convince the reader or the reviewer, so you should put the citation there to make the reviewer or reader make sure that this is can be happen or it have done research already.
Okay,
and
so in the introduction, you frequently have citation numbers because you're using that as support for your claim of need in particular.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes for the importance, because you may not know that it is really important or not. Yeah, so it is better to put some citation there to make it okay. We have the reference that it is really important.
Okay.
And the other category is when I try to write some word term is really particular or only my field only have these word terms, because in my field is control, and we have a lot of the word term like the researcher name, the like the Labunov or something. It's really weird. So that one should put the citation there.
Okay, but sometimes some of the things that you looked at didn't have a citation. So how do they decide when they need it and when it's okay not to put something like that in?
I think for that case, we have to consider about the leader or reviewer. Are they a specialist of this field or not? If they did, we just use the instead of a to as an article of that word. That is enough. Yeah.
So again, that's depends on the journal, then, because if a journal talks all about control, then the readers of that journal are going to be familiar with control systems.
Yeah,
but if you published in some other mechanical engineering journal, you might need a reference for that because the readers of that journal wouldn't be familiar with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mandy.
Yeah. So in my case, so when I'm writing, the first version of my article will be like follow my mind, that which citations I wanted to put it.
Yeah.
And maybe the next version that we have to like find what journal that we are tackled for,
right.
And then we can make some research that read some of the articles of the journals. Then we can know that whether if we need to add some more citations or delete some citations.
Yeah. Right. So if other readers in the field commonly refer to something without a citation, you can too. Yes, but if they commonly use a citation to refer to a particular topic or idea, then you also should.
Yes, because different journals have different topics that they need to talk about. Sometimes they are overlap, but sometimes they are slightly different.
Right.
So the citation may be like a little bit different if we tackle different journals.
Okay, good. Cool.
So in my view, also citation in introduction, but if we compare with another work, so in the testing method, it should be citation in there.
Okay, but again, how do you decide which testing methods need something?
If we use the data have published already published in another work, we should decide. But if the data is created by yourself, so we don't need to citation there.
Okay, so anytime that you refer to specific data, specific methods that were used in one particular article, then you need a citation.
Yeah.
But this again is something that you learn over time, right? You learn from other people in the field. You mentioned before we started recording that you learned from your advisor.
Yes. Because after I finish my article, then I will discuss with my teacher, and he is also an editor of other journals. So he will give me many advice of the structure or the citations.
Right. And the reviewers too. I mean, if you send it out to the editor sends it to the reviewers, and if the reviewers don't recognize something, they'll say, "Hey, I want a citation. Show me where this is from." So again, by doing this several times, you learn what's important and what you don't need a reference for.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a learning process. You know the past research, you become familiar with it, and then sometimes you don't cite things because you're familiar with it. You forget that other people may not be, but then the reviewers will remind you. So, okay, good. Okay, again, now it's your turn to look for citations in your article, the specific marked citations, and try to figure out which components they refer to, which they're used to support. Make a table just like the ones that we showed you in this lesson. But then also look for other places that known past information is used without citation. And again, often this will be in the framework portion of the article.